Good morning. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to have anything to do with van life, so if that's what you're wanting to see about our Sprinter van adventures, then you probably want to skip this video. This one's going to be 100% mechanical. It's going to be about fixing our Subaru, a 2005 Subaru, and maybe some of you've seen our timing belt fix that we've done in the past, and now we have another project today, and we're going to take you along and show you how we're going to fix our Subaru.
The old Subaru's making funny noises again, and we're going to end up having to do a little repair, I think, on a rear wheel bearing. So we've got pretty good noise going on. We're going to take you for a little ride and let you see what that sounds like. We've been listening to it for a while, so I think it's got to the point where we're going to have to do some repair. So let's go for a ride. Alright, we got you out to the hard road now where we can drive without hearing a lot of tools in the back rattle around, and so you can kind of hear what this thing sounds like. Here we go. Yeah, I'm sure you can probably hear that. We're 45, 50 miles an hour. Now we're at 60 miles an hour. And it sounds like it's trying to eat itself back there. So that started out as just a whine, and it went to kind of a growl, and now it sounds like I don't know, it's like a couple of gears trying to eat each other. So it's pretty well isolated to the right rear. Hopefully we won't have to get into the differential or anything. We're going to change the right rear wheel bearing and see what it sounds like after that. Heavy. I think I bottomed out. Poop. Well, that's a start. Looks like it's been chafing. Alright, let's get these up here. Okay, you can get this part. There's the brake drum. It needs to be turned. I don't know if you can see, but it's got spots, these glazed spots going around it. You see it here and there going around there. That's a sign that it needs to be turned. The brake shoes actually need to be replaced, but they're not down the metal yet, so we're going to let that go. All right, back to our job here. Get this locked. That would have been equivalent of one number 12 foot-pound. Bolt runs all the way through the bottom of this knuckle, and we have to take this bolt out, and that will allow this to swing so that we can press this axle back out of here. Oh, it looks like the axle's ready to fall out, so we just got to get it to swing enough to get this axle down and out of the way, but it requires removing this big bolt. So that's next. We've got a little bracket here that holds the emergency brake cable and the anti-lock brake sensor, and it's in the way of us getting to the other side of this bolt, to the nut on this side. So we're going to pull this bracket off of here and move it down out of the way. This is where a guy needs impact wrenches. So here's what happens. Well, I might as well explain this. Let me get some of my spray over here. Okay, now this bolt that goes through there, getting the nut off of it's easy, but if you can see right in here, this bolt goes through a metal sleeve that's inside of a rubber bushing right there, and it does the same thing on the back side. It goes through a metal sleeve inside of a rubber bushing right there where you see that socket on the end of the bolt, and that's where it seizes up. It also, in the northern climates, will seize up back in here where the bolt travels from the front of the knuckle to the back of the knuckle. But we don't have that problem here. But we are going to have it seized up inside of these bushings inside of the rubber. So that's the next step, is to penetrate those and try to get it loose. I'm going to spray these with quite a bit of that goo. And then we're just going to work it back and forth. And you have to be careful here, because if you tear that center metal bushing inside of the rubber grommet, you're going to have to replace the rubber bushings too, and that's a whole other job. So we're just going to kind of work these back and forth. Definitely a lot tighter. Some beating on it. Okay, we've got this bolt broken loose now inside of both of these bushings, and we've rotated it and put penetrating oil on it and moved it. And you can see this gap back here that's starting to come right here where it's actually starting to back out of there. So we're going to go ahead now and drive this bolt the rest of the way out. Now, almost completely out here. And before we take it the rest of the way out, we want to go ahead and pull this hub off. We're going to use this puller for that. It may take several tries to get that off of there. Ideally, you would use something that looks like this, but this one is way too big for our bolt pattern. There's no way we can make this work. So we're going to end up having to use these little jaws. Here's the sound that we were hearing on the small scale. Those bearings are shot. That's where the noise is coming from. Okay, on the back side, there are two seals on the back side, like this. In the back of the hub, it's kind of hard to get a camera in there to see that. We've popped both of those out. There's an inner and outer seal on the back side. Once we have this hub removed, there's a seal on the inside, one up in front. So there's 3 seals altogether. We finally got this hub assembly out, and the bearing just fell all apart when we did. And basically what I had to do was remove the axle completely from the differential, so I had room on the back side to use this old piece of steel here to get in like this and drive it out this side. And so now we have this piece out. We're going to replace this whole unit here. We're going to have to take the anti-lock braking sensor wheel off of here and put it on our new hub. But so now we have it down. As soon as we did, why, the bearings just fell apart. Those roller bearings fell out all over the ground. It's completely shot. So our next step is to get the old bearing and race completely out and clean up this this knuckle so that we can put the new bearing in. All right, now there's going to be a snap ring right here. That's this little brown stripe going around the outside. There's a little notch in it on each side, right here and here. And we're going to get a screwdriver in and pop that little ring out of there, and then this whole bearing assembly will come out the front side. Okay, yeah, that's just blue from getting hot right in there. All right, we have to get this race out now. Once we drive that out of there, we'll be ready to start going back together with this thing. All right, we used every tool we had, every kind of puller, every kind of driver, everything we had to try and get this race out of there, to no avail. And so we resorted to the old faithful. We got out the cutting torch and we cut the outside of the race to get the pressure off of it. This thing had got so hot inside of this knuckle that it was seized in there. So now we've got to do a little bit of dressing here inside the hole. We're going to dress that up just a little bit, and it'll be fine. We'll go ahead and and drive the new bearing in and the seals and go back together with this. So this is like an hour or two later since since we started trying to get this out. So there it is. All right, we have our knuckle all cleaned up inside. We put a little grease in there to help this bearing race slip in a little easier. And now we're going to drive this in. You got the front bearing and the rear bearing in this big race. We're going to drive that in and then put the seals in. So that's what we're up to now. So now we have our the new bearings and race all driven in to the knuckle. And we have our anti-lock brake ring attached to the hub. The hub's been in the freezer for several hours, which should make it easier to slide inside the bearing. We have the seals on the outside, 2 seals on the inside, and so we're ready to put the hub back. All right, we have the new hub with the anti-lock braking ring screwed on it, and we have it pressed into place. We did that by using the suspension bolt and a lot of spacers. We were able to actually use that suspension bolt with spacers in the back and the big block on the front and squeeze it in little by little and just keep taking the nut off and adding more spacers. And we pulled it right up inside of the bearings. And so it's in place and ready to go. Now we're going to put our axle back in, hook the suspension back up, and put the brake drum on. We've got our big axle nut to go on yet, but we're just about to close in on this, and we're out of daylight. There it is. How's it staying? Yes. Okay. Now that'll have to get torqued and pinged, but first we're going to get the suspension bolt back in. Snapped in. Yeah.
The ratchet broke.
Yeah, fell apart in my hands. Cheap Chinese junk. Needs to be preloaded. And by that, I mean we need to raise it up some. We raise the suspension up because if we tighten the bolt tight against the bushings inside of the rubber grommets with the wheel all the way down, then when we lower the car onto the tire, those bushings are going to twist inside that rubber as it comes up. So we want to raise it up and let the bolt rotate inside of the bushings, and we'll raise this up till we get it about where it's going to be sitting in a normal position. Then we'll tighten it up. Does that make sense? So we don't overstress the suspension bushings. Right about like that. We're just about to take the weight off the jack stand. So now we'll go ahead and tighten this baby up. call that good and tight. And lower that. Put our wrench off of there. Now we have this little bracket here to reinstall. If we cut the zip tie off, there we go. That goes up here. This goes over there. We're ready to put the brake drum on now. This bracket's back in place with our emergency brake cable and the anti-lock brake sensor. And everything looks good. The axle snapped back in the differential. All the suspension's reattached. We're going to go ahead and slip our brake drum on there now. And as soon as we get the brake drum on, we'll be ready to bolt on the tire and set it down on the tire. And after that, we will go ahead and tighten this up. They gave me the wrong one. It's the wrong hub. This wheel won't fit it. Oh, the pattern's different, isn't it?
It's the same. It's just off a little bit.
I'm having a panic attack. Oh my God.
No, you don't have it lined up at all.
All right. Let's put these brakes back in a little bit. I don't know if that's going in or out. I can't tell. I think it's in. Let's see. You recording that?
It's so close. There we go. All right, it is the right one. So where did you learn your mechanical experience?
Well, that started a really long time ago when I was probably, I don't know, over 13 years old. And I had an uncle that had a auto repair shop in the garage behind his house. Worked for a Ford dealership for 10 or 15 years and opened up his own shop. There we go. And I used to spend the summers there with him. And so by the time I was 15, I was building race cars and working on all the family vehicles and all that. So. notch right here in the axle. Once you have this nut on there, about as tight as you can get it, you're going to put a punch or a chisel or something right there and ping this thing, is what they call it. And this will keep it from coming loose. You can see it's smashed down into that groove. Looks like a keyway for a Woodruff key or something. And that's to reassure you that it's not going to come loose. And where's our little cap? There we go. Subaru. We are all finished. We have just replaced the rear wheel bearing and hub assembly on this 2005 Subaru Forester, and we did it without having all the proper tools. It takes a lot longer, and it took us about 10 hours, which is kind of crazy, but that's how long it took. Ran into a few problems here and there, a few difficulties, but we've got it all back together now, and we're getting ready to pick up all of our stuff and go for a little test ride.